Swizz, it's so lovely to meet you, and thank you for taking the time out for the FUBAR Radio Hip Hop Show. With I'm Sarah Love, my co-host. Unfortunately, he's not here today. My Stiggy. Well, you know, he had to see a man about a dog, and so I don't know if you've heard that saying before. You got to see a man about a dog. I don't know if American. No, yeah. Okay. We'll get you well versed in some English lingo before you leave today. But what are you doing here in London then?
Just coming to bring something new, you know, to the place that I love a lot. Mm-hmm. So I have this art fair called No Commissions, which was something that I brainstormed with being an artist. But then I was like, man, you know, every time I look around, people are taking from the artist. You know, no matter what an artist do, there's always somebody like taking something from them. And so I said, you know, if I ever got in position or in power to reverse those charges, I would do it. So then I created No Commissions, where it's the art fair where the artists keep 100% of what they sell. It's free for the people to come in. Yes, you have to RSVP. And no, everybody can't get in, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's just like the Yeezys, right? When you go online for the Yeezys, you can get them. It's a capacity thing. The performances are free as well, so you get to see some great artists. So it's art, music, great vibes. You know, it's just the entry point to the creativity. And I started it in Miami at Basel, with kind of disrupting Basel by announcing it the week of the show. You know, while everybody already planned out their things. It's like, oh, No Commission is here. What is No Commission? I don't know. It was kind of this discovery, and people just ended up jumping over the walls to try to get in. And then I did it in the South Bronx, which is my hometown, because I just felt like, one, I wanted to bring something back home, and because the Bronx started a lot of, you know, music and art and different things, and that's where I got my creativity from. So people wanted me to do it in Harlem, they wanted me to do it in Brooklyn, they wanted me to do it in Manhattan.
You had to keep it real.
I wanted to do it in the Bronx, and that became bigger than when we did it in Miami. And so now when they expected us to be at Basel in Miami, I wanted to bring it to London. So it's just kind of like unpredictable places that I want to bring this and create our own destiny. And, you know, the UK is the first place out of the US that we're launching. So this is pretty epic today.
Oh, that's lovely. What an honor for us to be treated to this in London. You know, we are pretty fly in London though. But so you're saying there's a visual art element as well as like the music performances happening too.
Absolutely.
And then how did you like select the people who'd be involved?
A lot through social media, and then a lot with just being on ground and knowing who's who and what's what. The art part of the show is 90% artists from the UK. The music is 100% artists from the UK, right? Because I just wanted it to be a celebration as well. You know, I'm a visitor here. I can't come here and act like I'm taking over anything. I just want to be able to add to the culture and give something different, because, you know, there's a lot of art platforms and things out here, but I don't feel the entry point really connects to our side of the culture like that. And so that's why I created this.
Definitely. And I think the same can be said from the visual art world, as well as like music infiltrating the music industry. There's kind of a disconnect between the industry and the street level movement, innit?
Absolutely.
And so what, is this going to be music from different genres, or is this specifically a rap thing?
I look at music as like art. You know, there's different canvases. You know, we have Emily performing tonight, Blood Orange performing tonight. I might do a little something tonight. You know, we're just keeping it cool, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, so that's tonight, then tomorrow it steps up a little bit more, you know, Bugsy Malone, a couple of, you know, amazing people. I just wanted to mix up the music, and I wanted it to feel like an experience. And even the way I built out the space, you know, I didn't want it to feel like a festival. You know, I wanted it to feel like everything was an experience. You know, the Bronx was the last festival kind of vibe that I'm going to do. Every other No Commission is going to be different, all of them.
Very cool. Yeah. I did live in Fordham for a short while in the Bronx, deep in the Bronx. But what kind of influence has the Bronx had on you as an artist then?
Everything. You know, I grew up around graffiti and music my whole life, just from being in the Bronx. And so that's how I got into music, and that's how I got into art. I just chose music first because being a DJ was just the thing to do. You know, it's like be a graffiti writer or a DJ. I'm gonna be a DJ right now. But then I came back to take my art roots back and, make it a new discovery, because I think that, our youth, we need, they need something else to pull on, and everybody can't be a producer, everybody can't be a rapper. You might be a great photographer. Let's make that cool. You might be a great painter. Let's make that cool. You might be a great fashion designer. Let's make that cool. Let's not just put the culture in one small box because it's happening at this particular point, when they're all forms of art. So I think that we should make all forms of art cool and accessible.
Yeah, because I think there's lots of people who are visual artists, but then they don't fit that whole art world of, the nouveau riche, eating canapes and things. That's not something that they connect with.
That's why no commission exists.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
We like that.
Yeah.
And so from here, so this is going to be spread over 2 days in London.
3.
3 days.
Yeah.
Lovely.
3 days.
And then, so are you going to be DJing?
For me, I'm just very spontaneous. Like, I like to be there. I like to vibe with the people. No VIP fakeness. Just really taking it in, and I love observing the experience, and because there's always room, for growth. You can see something like, next year I would change this, that. Like, so the key point for this show is the bathrooms for me. Step up the bathroom. So if you go to the bathroom, you're gonna see this is not a regular porta potty.
I've never interviewed an artist who's been promoting the bathroom at their event before.
I mean, you know what? A bathroom is such a small but big thing because it's attention to detail, and a lot of people that are business people but not really artists, but they just happen to be in that space for whatever reason of a financial head start, right? But it's don't keep putting the artists in basements and making the artists feel so strange and weird and all these different things, and you can't communicate with the artists. And it's just I just don't like the way that, people just treat the artists. So it's what? Even if you're gonna do an art show for the artists, make sure everything is to the next level. So when those buyers are coming to change these artists' lives, they have a great experience. You go in the bathroom and it's just you got one of the biggest collectors in there and this porta potty and it's disgusting in there. Is that person gonna want to stay there and buy work or gonna want to leave immediately?
It's right.
So it's starts from detail. I'm a Virgo, so I'm super detailed, and I'm just happy to have the best bathrooms in the.
That's your claim.
Art world right now.
And so for you say you're an artist, a visual artist. Also, in what kind of capacity have you messed with making art? I
mean, I paint, but I do it for therapy. I thought I was
canvas type painting, something. Yeah.
I've been painting for a long time. I've been promoting art for double-digit years.
I see.
Even my peers were laughing at me when I first started talking about art. Now they have art advisors. Which is cool, but that's why you gotta always continue your dream, because a lot of people might not see your vision. It's just people wanted me to not be a producer. Imagine, the world would be 550 songs less than now, right? So I said the art is something that we need to not be scared of. A lot of people in our culture was scared to be a part of the art because it was you was kind of crossing over or whatever the saying was. I just wasn't going for it. I was like, you know what? I'm raising my hand. I love art. This is what I'm going to support it, and whoever don't want to support it, it's okay.
It's important to pursue what you love in life, and it's sad because it's taken so long, I feel, with graffiti to be even recognized as art. I mean, I know there's a lot of graffiti artists who they don't feel Banksy, but in many ways Banksy has kind of at least opened up that dialogue to invite in the visual side of hip hop into the art galleries.
Yeah, but I think that people should focus on themselves. For another artist not to like another artist is already breaking the artist code, right? Artists should help artists. Artists should love each other. It shouldn't be, you can have creative battles or challenges or to keep you on your toes, right? But I just feel don't knock a Banksy. and Banksy should knock another artist, because I think what Banksy is doing is clever. I mean, everything that he's touching has substance, it has a message that's in there. So it's like, even the way he came and took over New York when he did, you know, it was just very clever. There was a charity component in there. There was a give back. Like, just look at the overall message, you know, and not be so literal all the time, you know, because he opened up the door, like what you said, for like people to look at, you know, graffiti art even more, like, and street art, which I don't even like that title. I don't like the title street art. I mean,
for me, that's kind of the same as using the title urban music. Like, it's just such this generic, disrespectful term that works for the industry, but it's not actually, you know, representing the truth of what's happening.
Yeah, you know, it's like a lot of artists started from the street that they would consider high-end art, or whatever the title they want to call it. I just think great art is great art. That's the title. Mm-hmm. It's art. It's, you know, it's somebody's expression. Now, you either can like that expression or not. But it's not like because he grew up in the South Bronx, he's a street artist. No, like, that's not it.
That's kind of a liberty as well.
Like, they always want to like put boundaries and titles and things on. Like, nah, it's just art.
But I feel those kind of labels, those are things that come from the top that they try and put on emerging stuff. Like, that's never, we never give these kind of generic labels.
Because it's business, you know, so they have to put titles on business, which is the reason why I'm glad I don't have a gallery, or I'm not a broker. I'm not even in the, I wouldn't call it the art business. I would call it like I'm in the art movement. You know,
nice.
Something more like that.
So who are some of your favorite visual artists active at the moment?
So many. I mean, you know, shout out to D-Face, who's from the UK. Shout out to Swoon. Shout out to Miss Vaughn. Shout out to Oka. Shout out to everybody, man. You know, it's just it's thousands and thousands and thousands of artists, you know. Shout out to Kahinde. It's too many.
Do you dig any kind of like more classical art? Yeah, like which artists?
Just all type of artists. See, like a lot of artists that I don't collect dead artists anymore.
Okay.
I only collect living artists at this particular time. Like pre-Dean collection, I was collecting like a lot of artists that's not here. But I seen that I was collecting for the wrong reasons.
Okay.
At that time, so I would buy a Warhol just to say I have a Warhol, or I would have.
Yeah, that's kind of whack to do that in a way.
Yeah, but you know, when you're first coming into it and nobody's really agreeing with the art scene at that time, I was buying paintings. So when Clive Davis and people from the music industry come to my house, they knew I was different. So when I went to go renegotiate my contract from a music standpoint, they knew that I couldn't. They knew not to give me the same deal that they would give somebody else, because I was showing that I'm on a different level, and it worked, by the way. And so like that was my strategy of collecting art at that time. But then I started traveling the world and just seeing amazing artists from everywhere, and I just was like, you know what, this is what I want to do. You know, like, why spend like all of this money on this person that's not even here, when you could take like the price of that one painting and empower like 20 artists and really meet them and help them with their life, and they can help you with your life and your family. You know, they're like everybody in the Dean collection I know. You know, so it's like a family now, and so it's just pretty amazing. That's
lovely. So it's definitely more than just business and upselling for you then.
I don't sell anything. The artists sell. You know, they keep all the money. You know, we gave back to the artists in their pockets over $2 million just in our last 2 shows. You know, so it's like they get to live their life off of that. You know.
But it's lovely to hear of people with a platform giving something back, you know, and that's something that I also want to see happening more in the music industry, because when even looking, say, on a political level, what's going on in the States at the moment, I mean, do you feel that there are some high-profile music artists and other people who have a platform who really maybe they could be contributing something to the dialogue? Yeah,
there's a few of us. Some doing more than others, but you know, like I just think that a lot of people are scared. You know, a lot of musicians like to play it safe, even though you know they like to come off as being super expressive. You know, a lot of people are scared, and it's crazy because even if you're really ready to like go up with these challenges, you'll be surprised how many people won't show up and support. So you'll be out there by yourself, and you would have spoken to those artists, and you'll feel like, okay, we're about to do this. And you show up, and if you had 100 people, it'll be like 10 people there. Or something can start, and then you'll just see it just phase out in like 1 month. Like you can't even get the person on the phone. Like we don't stick together as a culture, you know. Like
so how do we address that? Because I feel, you know, really we have so much power through unity, you know, and there's so many of us who have reached the position. You know, we've come from hip hop an underground movement, maybe not even necessarily hip hop specifically, but and now we're on a pop level status and united. There's so much that, you know, we could be kicking some butt.
Well, I think first and foremost we need a real solid leader. We need a new leader because a lot of artists are scared because they don't really know. So they might show up or act or pretend like they know, but they probably hide because they like, imagine you get put in front of this microphone right here on a CNN or on a main channel, and you can't articulate what you're standing for. That's kind of embarrassing, right? So I think like, but if it was a respectable leader in place, then you'll know the rules and you'll know your strong points, and then everybody that's a part of the team, you know, would be able to be delegated in the right way. This is where you're strong, you do this. This is where you're strong, you do that. But that doesn't happen. Everybody starts crowding into the same hole and screaming and yelling at the same time, and the message is never heard. It's just like, you know, we do a lot of protesting and marching, but what is our real goals?
Don't you think also, especially in hip hop, there's a lot more focus on soloists, and which is kind of fueling this egocentric kind of approach, whereas like back in the day you had more bands, you had the solo artists, but then you did have a Tribe Called Quest, you did have a Public Enemy, you know, you had groups too, so it was like more a community focus going on.
Well, I definitely think it's different, but you also have a different set of artists that's out here now. You know, you have, back then when you was mentioning those artists, it was, you know, it was a different time, and people had a different focus. I think this generation of social media, internet, you know, a lot of these artists came up through miraculously, instead of like really, you can't really see the paper trail of a lot of these artists like how back in the days you knew the paper trail and the DNA of who was speaking to you. Now, this person can speak to you from any side of the wall and have a fake life, but know how to articulate some creativity. And you might believe it, or you might dance to it, and that person will get empowered. And now that's one of the new leaders that's on the deck. And so it became a formula. So you have all these false leaders, or false prophets, like J. Cole said. You know, not talking about who he's talking about in the song. They both my friends. And then it gets to this point. You know, back when Tribe or even when Rough Riders, like, you know, everybody was doing this for like real survival, like for real. Like this was how, it wasn't a joke. You know, this was like real survival because we were still 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And I think it's survival for a lot of artists, but I don't think that they take it as serious. At least most of them that I see, I don't feel like taking it serious.
But in some ways, I think on the whole, the younger generation are more seduced and subjected to this kind of corporate influence and promotion, whereas in that day where we owned hip-hop, we commanded the rules of hip-hop in many ways.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing I can say about this generation, I don't think that they're very corporate. You know, I think that they're quite independent. That's the good part that I can say, is that a lot of these artists are really independent minded because that's how they started. You know, they didn't really start with a record label or a deal because of the entry point that they came in was through somewhere on YouTube or something like that. So they wasn't really conformed into that structure. So you see a lot of artists getting to a point they still won't have a label, you know, because they figured out how to do it on their own. I do respect that part of it. I think they're more free than we were, even though their message might not be as strong, but it's a balance. You can't have everything, I guess, right? But
no. Yeah, and in the past you had the gatekeepers, you know, of the music industry, and the only way you were going to get your sound or your voice out there was by getting a deal, whereas now it's anyone who can get an internet connection. And
I like that, though.
Oh, yeah, no, that's dope. But then, and that's the wonderful thing is that it is open to everyone and their auntie, but then that's the bad thing about it too, is open to everyone and their auntie. So it's like whittling it down to the voices who are, you know, like you were saying before about people who can be the voice of a leader to lead a community. Like there's a lot of noise to get through.
But everybody's not born to be a leader, and that's just something that we just got to understand and deal with it, you know? It's like if everybody have a leader in them, I believe that, but I feel like it's a lot of hard work to bring the leader out of you. You know, you have to know who you are, and a lot of us don't even know who we are. You know, even as grown-ups, definitely as kids, you know, so it's like, how do we put something in the process where people can look in the mirror instead of looking at everybody else's flaws, right? You could take that time and like tune your own channel, and we'd probably have a better place just with that small adjustment, right? And so like, that's how I look at it. I mean, I try to work on myself every day as much as possible because there's so much work to be done, like every day.
Yeah, it's an easy option to point fingers, isn't it, rather than to like be introspective. And like speaking of yourself, looking at yourself, how do you describe yourself as a producer?
As a producer, I'm still a student. You know, I still have a lot more work to go. I'm not comfortable with the accolades that I already have. I think they were just beginning things, you know, things that. And the only reason I say that, you know, is because I'm more knowledgeable now. I know what I want to do. You know, when people heard all those records, I was just doing them. I didn't have no goal. I didn't have no plans. I was just fresh off the streets. So like now when I do music, is intentions, you know, are set and goals are set, and it's just a different format for me now. You know, I know how to take my expression and make it be felt in a different way, like as a plan, rather than just pressing some buttons and just sending it out and just being cool with it being played in a party. You know, okay. I like that too, but you know, I just used to think very small.
Okay. Yeah, but style-wise, because you're not a sample-based kind of producer, I would say. I'm even struggling to think of any joints of yours that have samples.
I sampled a little bit.
Yeah?
You know, I played around a little. Yeah, because I thought it was like refreshing to like be unpredictable. You know, so everybody was already like, he's not sampling. Like, let me throw a sample. What are they gonna do if I do sample? Right? I'm just like that. And like now, I'm just like going back to the basics of my core sound. Which is just like the crazy synths and the anthematic sounds. And, you know, if you go on my Instagram, you see I've been like no sleep in the studio all last week, just bringing back these sounds and putting particular artists on it. And it goes back to having that plan of, you know, we can complain about what we don't like, but how are we going to fix it? Right? And so it's like, okay, I'm not going to talk about nobody. Let me just inject back into the ecosystem what I feel is missing, right? And so like that's the plan of attack there. Because
I'd say some of the most successful vocalists of recording history are the vocalists that as soon as you hear them, you know that's James Brown, you know it's Michael Jackson, you know it's Whitney Houston. I'd say you have a very distinctive sound. Like it's easy for me to record, like with Primo, like you hear Primo, but even without the Showtime, right, you know, it's like the kind of swing and, you know, bounce that you have in your beats. I'd say in many ways, I would describe your style. It's almost like if you let a child loose on a keyboard, like it's got that youthful joyfulness to it.
It should be festive, you know. It should be festive, and music is like it should be easy to. It should be an easy entry point, you know. And that's why I always would like strip back so many sounds and keep it like basic. You know, for me, it was always less is more, and then I would experiment and go crazy with the sounds. But I just think less is more is back. You know, just an overall lifestyle, period. Less is more. Like I got rid of, you know, a bunch of cars. I'm not really into the jewelry like that no more. I mean, I like nice things, but I just think that we need to like less is more. You know, I just think that we're overdoing everything as a culture. It's like when you look at how everybody's carrying themselves, I think that everybody's just painting the wrong message. And there's nothing wrong with us celebrating our success, right? Because that watch, that chain, that's like your trophies. That's like your Grammys for making it out of the streets.
But in some ways, even when I look at those kind of things, how rewarding is it? Because to me, like, a car doesn't enhance my life. You know, it's time and time with people and experiences with people. That's where you really grow as a person, isn't it?
But I think at a certain period in time, that watch and that chain does change your life.
On a street rep level, maybe, you know, and in how you're regarded by other people, maybe.
Yeah, because that's the first thing you're looking for is acceptance. And, you know, but I think it's false acceptance because somebody's going to accept you because of a chain and not who you are as a person. It's like a false acceptance.
Yeah.
And we don't learn that. I'm just now learning these things. You know, I'm 38. I'm just now learning these things. So that's why you got to always stay a student. You know, I can't say I was on this page the whole time. I was 12 cars, millions in diamonds and jewelry and stuff like that. And it's like, it didn't mean anything. You know, I invested that same amount of time and money into art and was able to build an entire platform off of that. You know, so I would love for people to look at that and use that as a blueprint, you know, just to like create a gift that keeps on giving, you know, like do something that's just a little different. And I can't say that I had that plan for a long time. I figured it out once I went back to school and just started seeing things a different way because I was moving so fast, you know, since 17. It's like I had no break. So it's like, how do you stop and EQ your channel? You know, nobody's doing, like everybody's running. And like when you stop, it's like, wait a minute, like I've been running out. This is not even the right block I was running down. I could have just went there and went around the corner. Why that, right? So you gotta change, you gotta check your EQ every now and then.
I'm really happy to hear that because I think we need more voices, high profile voices projecting those kind of ideas to young people because many young people are still fixated on materialistic kind of ideas, don't you think?
Yeah, because nothing else out there is cool. So that's why I like, you know, I want to open this platform of art and just different things where your mind is occupied and people are giving you cool points for really doing cool things. Right, and I think that the biggest problem that we have is the drugs, you know. So it's just like that's the biggest problem. Like it's the drugs, you know, and the youth using the drugs. I mean, when I was coming up, I don't want to encourage nobody, but we was more selling drugs than using drugs. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't like now people are using drugs more than not selling drugs. I don't really like how does that work? And I think that's the biggest problem that we have with the youth and music and creativity and it being stunted is by, and the violence too is coming from the drugs. You know, so it's like, what's the plan for that? You know, how does that become uncool? Right? And it's just, it's sad what's happening around the world and, you know, Chicago, all these different places because of the drugs. And it's because of poverty, it's because of a lot of things.
Exactly. Most of it, a lot of it is precipitated from poverty, isn't it? And people wanting to live, to aspire to the kind of cool things you're seeing on TV that other people 100%. Have got and get down with that. I mean, how are we gonna get these messages out to people? Because when you look back to, say, the Black Panther era or your Martin Luther King's, Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela, like there were people who were kind of given some kind of guidance. Like, we can't all just say, oh, well, we're not all leaders. Like, you know, you just got to play your position, wait for someone else to step up. Like, it's people like you and your wife who are in a fantastic position to galvanize the public. Like, how do we make that happen? Where that's just a common accepted, like, yeah, this is the agenda now.
It's a lot of work. It's, you know, it's been a fight for hundreds of years that still hasn't been won because the system that you live in is just not, that we live in is just not designed to handle those situations properly because it's a big business. You see, so the business kind of have to go out of business for that to come and play, or we have to wake up and be extra smart. But like, you know, an addiction is an addiction. it's not the easiest thing to let go, any addiction.
But it's interesting because going to other countries, how they deal with addiction, like in the Netherlands and Scandinavia, they deal with addiction as a medical problem. In the States, it's dealt with as a criminal problem. I mean, you have the privatized prison system in the States as well to contend with. So it's intense. But back to you as a producer, though. I mean, who were you listening to? Like, who really inspired you growing your ears when you were younger?
Not producers. I was listening to more DJs.
Okay,
so at that time it was like Kid Capri, Ron G, DJ SNS, Showbiz and AZ. Like it was more of those DJs. But I didn't know I was developing a producer at the same time from DJing, because when you're DJing, it's all about timing. It's all about keeping the crowd engaged. So it's all of those things of making a hit record. Is DJing, because imagine you're in control of hundreds or 1,000, whoever you're DJing for, of people, and they have to like your choice of selection. And the same thing with producing. Like, think about a hit record, like 1 million people agreed with a sound or a craft. Like, that's huge. That's something that you sat down in a room and 1 million people agreed that was the right choice, or 1 million plus, or even like, just think about like 20,000 people like your song. That's a lot of people that's like agreeing with something that started from nothing. Mm-hmm. Right? And so I became a producer by default. I was making adding extra tracks onto my mixtape. And then I remember my uncle and a couple of my friends was like, take the music, take the song out and just leave that. And our people started rapping on the intros for the mixtape. So the intro of the mixtape was big. So, if you had a big rapper or up and coming rapper on your mixtape in the beginning, it was like, oh, okay. Doo-Wop was just main DJ doing those intros. So I started making intros, and I used to sell intros to other people. I didn't even know I was producing. Mm-hmm. I thought I was just making intros for mixtapes. And then my uncle said, you should take the producing thing serious because you're really producing. I'm like, what's that? Like, he's like, that's what you're doing already, but it's a business that go with that. That's what you should do. And I'm like, I'm a DJ, right? And then
but a few years down the line, you're now getting nominated for things like Grammys and stuff. I mean, the other day I saw an interview with the winner of this year's Turner Prize, speaking of the visual art world, and she was saying that she takes the winnings that she gets from the Turner Prize and she shares it among all the other nominees because she doesn't believe in prizes for art. I mean, how do you think? Because in many ways, I think what matters is what the street and the people say, what do you think then with regards to that in terms of having a nomination for something like a Grammy? I mean, it's wonderful, obviously.
Well, my last Grammy was on to the next one with Jay-Z. I haven't seen it yet. Over 300 and some million records sold domestically. My wife and Mo, they just made a plaque. I just got a plaque for that. It's like sitting on the floor somewhere in the office. I never like hanging plaques and stuff like that because it's just like glorifying yourself. I don't know, I just never really I used to dream of a room full of plaques just from seeing it in videos, but when it really came down to it, I just was like, I always want to feel like there's more to be done because it is, and it's just like, you want to wake up and just see, I don't know, for me, I like looking at my kids, you know what I'm saying? That's something that I can wake up looking at plaques. I don't even like painting the pictures of myself.
Oh, that's lovely. And you
freaked out by it.
Yeah, and you mentioned your wife and your kids there. What are some of the biggest challenges of being such a high-profile couple? Because if I did see correctly, a little earlier this year, you kind of jumped to your wife's defense on social media because I think people were kind of gunning her a little bit for her choices about not wearing makeup anymore. I mean, how easy, it must be quite tough to be in the spotlight and
No, I think we accepted that job a long time ago, and when you accept that job, things come with it. You're in the eye, and I just never knew that people would care about what somebody's doing to their own face so much. It's like,
do you know what I mean?
She didn't tell you not to wear makeup. She just saying, you know what? I don't feel like wearing makeup. I want to be 100% myself and in my skin and comfortable with it. And, when I decide to wear makeup again, I wear it again. She's not even not wearing makeup all day, every day, but she just that's just what she chose to do. She was just like, yeah, I just want to not wear makeup. But people were like in a frenzy about it. It was like, pretty crazy.
No, but I saw a little clip of you where you looked kind of fired up.
Well, I was fired up.
Yeah. So it's not like, oh yeah, we just accepted that years ago. That's but sometimes it can like hit home a bit.
I don't just accept anything. You know, I'm laid back, but I'm pretty like on point when it comes to my family though. You know, like they can't like play around with my kids, or you can't get like if I feel you being malicious about my wife or something like that, I'm gonna naturally respond, and I have to. You know, I don't know how to really. I'm still trying to learn how to sit back. You know, but I am from the Bronx still. You know?
Yeah, you're truly from the Bronx. So what's next then? What is going to be happening in 2017 with Swizz Beatz?
Oh man, a lot of music. You know, I was in the studio with gigs last night. We did something pretty crazy for my album. You know, so I think I might.
For your album, you said.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I gave him some for his album too. But I just think I'm putting out a lot of music.
Who else might you be working with that we'll hear about?
You know, Angel. You know, he just put his EP out. You know, so we worked on that together. But everybody.
Who haven't you worked with yet that you would like to?
I definitely want to work with Sade. I know she's out here somewhere.
Yeah, put that into the atmosphere. Yeah. She'll hear you.
Nah, she's actually cool. You know, we actually know each other, and her and my wife is cool as well. And I just would want to give her like a hard track and just let her sing those angelic vocals too. You know, and just be like, whoa, like that Sade. Yeah.
That sounds exciting. I look forward to hearing it. But thank you so much for taking the time out to chat to us today. And yeah, looking forward to hear all this new music. And I'm so excited about this new art focus that you're bringing to art too. And thank you for bringing it to London.
Thank you. I want the review on the show.
Oh, dope. No problem. I'm a harsh critic, so I'll be on the case.
I know. See, that's the thing. Like, nothing's ever perfect.
No, but imperfection is perfection to me.
100%, and that's why it's like some things. Like only thing I can't mess with. I'm very anal when it comes to lines.
What do you mean lines?
Like I just can't take like say like how this projector.
Oh, you like, have OCD as well.
If it was like over here, it would freak me. I'm like, why didn't they line it up between the? It would drive me crazy. So yesterday I seen like a flat screen. And it was like the door entrance, but the flat screen was like right there. And I'm just like, they gotta move that. I don't know. And it's just like, yeah, but it's just this flat screen. I'm like.
So Jackson Pollock's not for you then, if you're not into disorganized lines.
Jackson Pollock is cool. You know, I love that type of, because if you look at it as a whole, it's organized. You know, the lines coincide and it works. You know, but if a Jackson Pollock frame was kind of like, off balance or hanging on the wall like
offensive.
This, it would drive. No, I would be in places like in buildings and things, and I see a painting, and I start adjusting it. Like, no, you can't touch it. So I'm like, no, you gotta fix this. Like, you know who's painting this? You gotta. Yeah.
They're like, you need help.
Yeah.
You need an intervention.